Come to Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence for retirees looking for an ideal rental setting to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We offer bright 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, wellness and entertainment programs, all with a friendly community spirit on beautiful grounds. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Nick Morganelli. I'll tell you about a safety training happening at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament in Westfield. You'll learn some tips on how to keep your parish family safe in just about any kind of emergency.
A priest astronomer reflects on the lunar landing 50 years ago. And Mark Giza has the latest from Hollywood in Real Culture. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. Many church leaders came together recently for a safety workshop at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Church in Westfield. We learn now how parishioners and pastors are becoming better prepared for an active shooter situation. Nick Morganelli has the story.
Unfortunately, right now in our world, this is the reality. This is the situation. This is what we see on the news every day. And we don't want to come to church and have to think about something like this, but it's reality.
Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Church in Westfield was the venue for a diocesan church safety day over the summer. Each parish was invited to bring their safety committee or those interested in forming one. Beth Chase, as pastoral minister, is part of their newly formed safety team at St. Michael's in East Longmeadow.
My hopes for the program would be right now we're gathering information. So bringing the information back to the parish and assembling a team of people who everyone trusts and everyone knows.
We love our family at St. Michael's with all of our heart. And if there is anything that myself and Beth can do to make sure that every person is safe, loved, and protected, that is the absolute intentionality of my heart.
The safety seminar was conducted by professionals in the field and included the hows and whys of starting, designing, and implementing a safety team.
You don't want to share the details of your security plans.
Started with the basics. We've been developing the plan that they're talking about today. We've been developing that. And we try to meet like at least every other month. There are about 10 of us, including Father.
Jack Britton and the safety committee with Father Dan Pekalik in Westfield are ahead of the curve as they started working on their program nearly 2 years ago.
It has been a blessing. You know, I think you have to start somewhere, and we felt that by putting together a committee and starting to talk about safety issues in the church and in our parish center, that we could begin to make progress in preparing people to know what they can do when they get here. We always think about an intruder coming in, but there could be anything that could happen in the church, from type of gas or smoke that could start to happen. And having a defibrillator in the church was something I'm not sure that we ever even talked about it or would have talked about it before we started the committee.
I think just getting the defibrillator here, I mean, we do have an elderly parish, and it's good to have just that knowledge that we have that here if we need it.
Everybody hopes you never have to use it, but certainly it's great to know that it's here.
One of the things parishioners learned in today's training is how to secure a door. This one might take a little ingenuity, but sometimes it's something as simple as a chair that can do the trick. Check it out.
We're going to take this chair.
Perfect. Not all doors are the same, so it takes an evaluation and some ingenuity to secure them in the event of an intruder.
Take some furniture from point A to point B, which would be that wall. Get 3 chairs, fill that gap.
Along with practical application, attendees gain knowledge of how to prepare their parish for an emergency, and there were many different takeaways from the day.
I think today did, for me at least, is a good refresher course, just to rethink about things and how we would react in certain situations. One of the things that I know is you can plan and drill and do all that stuff, but when it's for real, it becomes a whole different story. You have to be calm, and you have to think things through as quickly as possible and make the right decisions.
And Jack, who has an extensive career in police work and directing security for large companies, has some advice for safety teams.
We'll get the local responders involved, the police, the fire, the EMTs, because they're the ones that are coming to help you, and the more they know about your facility, the better they can assist you when they get here.
The seminar will surely help Father Wayne and Beth lead their safety team in the months to come.
I feel it's where Christ is leading us, just to make sure that when we are connecting with God in that loving, spiritual, and inspiring way, we can feel that peace with absolutely no stress. That's my hope and prayer.
Making the kids feel like comfortable with a plan and having something in place that we can keep practicing. Just being really observant to your surroundings and what's going on. That was a big thing because a lot of people aren't paying attention. They're in autopilot and they're just continuing to worship at Mass and they're not really paying attention.
I think because of the schools having done this training for a long time, the children are not surprised by it at all. It's just doing it in such a way that our older people understand the benefit of it and are not frightened by it, but just know that it's a way that we're going to have to live from now on. And if we can make peace with it, I think it'll be best for all.
Learning safety measures in Westfield, I'm Nick Morganelli.
And Nick says officials at the workshop urged everyone to become familiar with their own parish's safety procedures. Some good advice for sure. And another session will be held this fall in the Catholic schools. Still to come on Reel to Reel, Mark Giza will be by with the latest from Hollywood. And a local priest astronomer reflects on the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. These stories and more are still to come on Reel to Reel.
Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Gallon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy days and join us Sunday morning. We welcome Bishop Mitchell Rosansky live from the Big E and celebrate the 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time. The Chalice of Salvation, Sunday mornings at 10 on TV 22 News, WWLP.
Excuse me, in one word, what do you love about Providence Place?
Family.
Friends. Wellness.
Art.
Compassion.
Home. Laughter.
No matter what community means to you, you'll find it at Providence Place in Holyoke.
Travel with Catholic Communications in August 2020 for the Pilgrimage of the Decade as we experience the Oberammergau Passion Play. Join Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky and Father Gary Daly for the spiritual journey to Germany and the village of Oberammergau. Since 1634, this famous play has been performed every 10 years in this quaint alpine village. Our 10-day pilgrimage will begin in Brussels, Belgium, and continue through Cologne, Heidelberg, Oberammergau, and Munich, Germany. With daily breakfast and dinners included, pilgrims will enjoy daily Mass in many of Germany's brilliant cathedrals and churches, a cruise on the Rhine River, a tour of Cologne's cathedral treasury containing the staff of St. Peter, and a visit to Munich's famous Glockenspiel. Learn more at an information night coming up on Thursday, September 26th at 7 p.m. at the Bishop Marshall Center behind St. Michael's Cathedral in Springfield. No advance registration is required.
Plan your best day ever at the Big E, September 13th through the 29th. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, September 27th through the 29th in the Coliseum.
A wonderful, small, independent film about family, a film about Christianity,
and what it's like to be a good friend. And a wonderful play comes to the Majestic. Let's take a look at this week's Real Culture. Now playing at the Majestic Theater in West Springfield is the new play, The Tuna Goddess, a play about family, love, friendship, and most of all, the sea. Alex returns home to settle her family's estate, but when she does, she gets a lot more than she wanted. Her dad's boat was left to her and her childhood friend Pete, a hard-working man with a big dream. The play, directed by Danny Eaton, sails smoothly from beginning to end. The set by Josiah Durham and Greg Trokill is perfect. 1 second a boat, the other second a warm, cozy kitchen. I must say the actors in this piece are all first-rate. From the smallest role to the lead of Alex, all perform with heart and true soul. So buy your ticket now for a trip you will not soon forget. It's playing there till October 13th. Overcomer. The film starts out like a bad soap, but once it gets moving, we're so glad we came. The story follows John, a basketball coach, who in a blink of an eye becomes the cross-country coach, much to his dismay. Until Hannah, a girl with a dream and a lot of baggage, enters his life and becomes his only team member. The film shows us faith, power, and true friendship. It also is one of the best Christian films I have ever seen. So if you're looking for a break from films that offer you nothing but violence, sex, and gore, this sweet film fills in the blank quite nicely. P.S. Don't forget your Kleenex.
Where's your team? She's right there. What have you allowed to define you?
That's Hannah.
Also, there's a sweet little film out there called The Farewell. The film deals with a close-knit family who love each other, but keep deep, deep, dark secrets from each other. I loved it because we see actors who act so natural that we forget they're acting. Also, I think it's the only film out there right now that shows people just like you and I that live life the best they can and deal with the hand that they've been dealt with real heart. The film may be small, but one thing you will want to do after you see it is go hug Grandma. See it as soon as you can.
咋不说话呢？今天人多齐呀，好久没这么聚了，奶奶就等着这一天呐。来，大口咬，哇！
And you can see my reviews, as well as read other movie reviews, provided by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops online at iobserve.org. That's iobserve.org. The next time we meet, we'll be talking about Downton Abbey, the film. I will be in Boston for the premiere, and we'll have a chance to sit down with some of the stars. Only on Real Culture will you see them up close and personal. I'm Mark Giza for Real Culture. Have a fabulous weekend.
You are watching Reel to Reel, your window on the world around you. Here again is your Reel to Reel host, Sharon Rulier.
Students and faculty at St. Agnes School in Louisville, Kentucky prepared for the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation this year as they show off the ways those on their campus are caring for the environment every day. We learn more now in this Catholic News Service piece.
Try to grab the roots to it. There you go.
God spent a whole week making this for us, and if we treated it like trash, that would be so unfair to God. And imagine how he would feel. Like he made and took the time to make something for you, and you're just treating it with so much disrespect.
At St. Agnes School in Louisville, the students are leading efforts to go green. They're spearheading actions to help their school take better care of creation.
So this is the pollinator garden, and it was started by the 3rd graders, and we help water the plants and let them grow. We realized how much food our school was throwing away, and we got a compost bin to fix that, and we realized how long our school buses were idling for, so we made an idle-free zone.
The school student council has a position dedicated to stewardship. There's also a student energy club that meets weekly to help their campus be more energy efficient.
Every morning we would come in about 7:15 and monitor classrooms throughout the school and monitor things that they did that was wasting or not using energy properly.
It was in the winter, it's cold, and unfortunately my office was found to have the highest temperature. I think I had my heat on and the door closed, but they helped me to realize that when I wasn't in my office, it would stay nice and warm and I might not need my heater on. So I turned it off after that.
Students also spend time at the nearby environmental organization, the Passionist Earth and Spirit Center. The kids helped build a wetlands nature preserve there and regularly visit for lessons on the environment.
It's beautiful. Like, you get to see all the colorful leaves on the trees, especially at this time because it's fall and all the leaves are changing colors and dropping to the ground. And you can see like the insects and butterflies all flying around.
Just listening to the students talk about how excited they are when I tell them that we get to go to the wetlands or that we get to go garden. They really do just have a passion now about doing things that are really going to make a difference.
The school was recently honored as a 2019 U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School, one of only 10 non-public schools in the nation to receive that recognition.
As a middle-aged person, I feel more hopeful that the future is going to be good because these young people, they get it. They understand it, and they're going to be good stewards of creation going forward. So it's hopeful for future generations.
God made this earth for us to live in and to help take care of it, and He worked hard on it, so we can help by doing small things to help make a big difference.
50 years ago, people around the world gazed to the heavens as American astronauts were heading for a historic rendezvous with the moon. Father Doug McGonigal was one of the millions who watched the flickering images on TV as Neil Armstrong took the first steps on the lunar surface. Steve Kiltonick sat down with Father Doug, who earned a PhD in astronomy, and spoke with him about space, the moon landing, and its impact on the world.
It began with a challenge by President John F. Kennedy speaking before a special joint session of Congress.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
JFK's bold national call to action would change the world. America met the challenge head-on. For the next 7 years, NASA focused all its effort to the fulfillment of that pledge. First with the Mercury program, then Gemini, and finally the Apollo program. It all culminated on July 16, 1969, when the massive 30-story, 6 million-pound Saturn V rocket lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. On board were 3 astronauts, Commander Neil Armstrong, Lunar Module Pilot Edwin Buzz Aldrin, and Command Module Pilot Michael Collins. After 4 days and a 238,900-mile journey, the crew of Apollo 11 reached their final destination, the moon.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
On July 20th, 1969, an estimated 600 million people, 1/5 the world's population at the time, collectively held its breath, watched and listened as Neil Armstrong descended the steps of the Eagle lunar module and jumped off onto the lunar surface.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It was the first time a human had set foot on a surface other than Earth. Buzz Aldrin soon joined him, and both men explored the barren landscape for several hours, conducting experiments, gathering rocks, and planting the American flag.
Yes, indeed. They've got the flag up now, and you can see the stars and stripes on the lunar surface. Beautiful, just beautiful.
After nearly a day, the lunar module blasted off from the Sea of Tranquility. The astronauts left behind a plaque with the words,
"Here, men from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, July 1969, AD. It came in peace for all mankind."
They rendezvoused with the mothership piloted by Collins, who was in orbit around the moon. 4 days later, Apollo 11 splashed down safely in the Pacific Ocean. President Richard Nixon greeted them, claiming that week to be the greatest week in the history of the world since creation. The astronauts received a hero's welcome with ticker tape parades like this one in Houston, and later going on a 22-nation world tour. This year marks the 50th anniversary of that historic landing. In Billerica, Massachusetts, a then 10-year-old Douglas McGonigal looked on in amazement with his family. He would later become Father Douglas McGonigal, the pastor of Our Lady of the Valley Parish. He was fascinated by space and space exploration from an early age.
I've always had an interest, never known a time when I didn't.
Father Doug was born in 1959, right after the Russians had launched the Sputnik satellite, triggering the U.S.-Soviet space race.
It was a period of time where, your Cheerios boxes had pictures of astronauts and Chuck Yeager and all those people, and science and space and rockets and airplanes and electronics were just, it was what you ate, what you breathed all the time.
His father worked in the high-tech industry for General Dynamics Research, where he and other engineers developed optical components for the Mercury space capsule.
Living in eastern Massachusetts, a lot of the technology was being developed there, and a lot of people I lived around, the engineers, the dads of my friends were all engineers working on some parts of these projects. So it was all in the air.
On that historic day, McGonigal was glued with his two brothers to a GE portable TV set, the kind with the rabbit ears that got only 12 channels.
I remember my brothers and I were sitting on the living room floor watching this black and white TV and these fuzzy images, and trying to figure out exactly what it was you're looking at. The actual TV transmissions, blown out, the contrast was awful, the transmission wasn't all that good, but you could figure out something was happening.
As his family watched the moon landing, McGonigal knew the risks involved. The Apollo program began in tragedy on January 27, 1967, when a fire broke out inside the Apollo 1 command module during a pre-flight test at Cape Canaveral, killing all 3 astronauts, Edwin White, Virgil Gus Grissom, and Roger Chaffee.
We knew that the smallest little thing, could be a death sentence for these people. So I think what I remember more about it is just how brave these guys had to be.
The lunar landing was not without its religious connections. Buzz Aldrin, a Presbyterian minister, received permission to bring bread and wine on the mission. Before he walked on the lunar surface, Aldrin gave himself communion. He felt strongly that as man explores space, we are in fact acting in Christ. During a radio blackout, Aldrin quoted scripture, "I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, for you can do nothing without me." Pope Paul VI was known as an admirer of space travel. As the moon landing took place, he watched as it occurred through the Schmidt telescope at the Vatican Observatory in Castel Gandolfo, Italy. The pontiff was one of 75 world leaders who penned messages for the astronauts to leave behind on the moon, writing, "For the glory of the name of God, who gives men such power, we pray and wish well for this wondrous endeavor." 3 months after the landing, the astronauts and their wives were invited to the Vatican, where they received gifts symbolic of the Magi, noting that the wise men were also guided by the stars. Father McGonigal never lost his childhood wonder and interest in space. He eventually earned a bachelor's and doctoral degree in astronomy from the University of Massachusetts Amherst in 1995. His dissertation, The Chemistry of the Interstellar Medium. His specialty, radio astronomy. Father Doug became one of the founding members and president of the Amherst Area Amateur Astronomers Association. He worked on large-scale wave telescopes as a postdoctoral fellow before entering Pope John National Seminary. He was ordained in June 2000 and became pastor of Our Lady of the Valley Parish in 2010. The lunar landing remains one of humankind's greatest achievements.
I think it's a moment in time that may never, ever happen again.
Father McGonigal cited the JFK assassination and 9/11 as comparable moments in history that almost everyone remembers.
But both those events happened unexpectedly. They were traumatic, memorizing, life-changing. But here, the moon landing, everybody knew when it was going to happen. At just the right time, where most everybody on the planet had access to the information, could see what was happening or hear it or listen about it or get a report about it instantaneously. And so there was an appointment and the whole planet paused, for those few moments as they stepped out on the moon.
The 50th anniversary has revived interest in America's space program and of returning to the moon. Father McGonigal believes that we, as a race, are going back to the moon and then eventually onto Mars. But who gets there next is anyone's guess. China, India, and Israel have all expressed a desire to go to the moon. And billionaires like Amazon's Jeff Bezos and independent SpaceX's Elon Musk are already light years ahead of some countries.
And their playground is now spaceships and stuff, and they're pushing the technology faster than any government could ever do, because they can take risks. It's their money.
From 1960 until 1972, when the Apollo program ended, about $24 billion was spent on space, which is close to $100 billion in today's dollars. Many technological advances were made during the lunar mission decade, including computer microchips, solar panels, and GPS navigation. Despite talk of the space program being too expensive and labor-intensive, it took 400,000 engineers to get to the moon. Father McGonigal believes reaching for the stars is programmed in our DNA.
There's no choice for the human being not to explore, not to ask questions, not to... It's the same way as saying, what use is a symphony? Symphony doesn't have to justify itself. Neither does man's need for exploration.
As the anniversary approached, Father Doug went on a mission to find an exact replica of the Revell Saturn V model rocket that he built as a youth.
As a 10-year-old, I did my best to build it and had great fun doing so. Well, now I'm 60 years old and doing a really good job on midlife crisis and all that sort of stuff. And it popped into my head, gee, I'd love to build that model.
After years searching the internet, Father Doug finally tracked down the model in England. With shipping, it cost $150. For this astronomer priest, it was well worth it. He plans to build the model with a fellow priest, Father Piotr Paulus of Hadley. In the process, Father Doug hopes to maybe relive a special moment from his youth, a time when things were simpler and perhaps more awe-inspiring.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept.
For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
Despite being a busy diocesan priest, Father Doug hasn't lost his interest in rockets and the heavens, one that began more than 50 years ago. He subscribes to space journals, and he's always looking for opportunities to talk on the topic of science and religion. And for this week, that's Real to Real. We want to remind you of the annual Chalice of Salvation Mass at the Big E in West Springfield. We will again be broadcasting Chalice live at 10 a.m. on WWLP TV from the fairgrounds this Sunday, September 15th, with Bishop Mitchell Rosansky. And we would really like to see you there. If you are planning a visit to the Big E on Sunday, why not come early by 9:45 a.m. to attend our televised Mass? That's Sunday, September 15th at the Court of Honor stage, right in front of the Coliseum on the grounds of the Big E. Remember, for more updates anytime, you can find information and news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, on our news and information site, iobserve.org. And we are also on Facebook, updating daily while our reporters work on stories for Real to Real. Check us out and friend us at Catholic Communications. We will see you next week from the Big E in West Springfield for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. Looking forward to seeing you then.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.